Hello, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people here. If anyone has a question or the chat, and we'll make sure we get everybody connected correctly here. But everyone's probably in listen-only mode right now. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And this will be recorded, so folks who come later or who missed the event, we can get a copy to them. But we'll respect people's times here and get going. All right. So today we're going to talk about Forio Performer, also known as our role-playing platform. And just again, for people who maybe are have questions or want to interact. I know we've got you all on listen only mode, but you can certainly speak up via the chat box. If there's a technical difficulty, we'll try to resolve it right away. If there's a question, we'll save those up, and Merida here, who's joined me, will answer. We'll go through some of the questions at the end, and we'll get back to everybody's questions eventually through email if we don't get to them on today's call. So the agenda is pretty straightforward. Just to really introduce people to Forio Performer, talk about why we did it, what some of the benefits of Forio Performer can be. We'll do a demo, and then get into just a little bit of what would be some of the next steps if you wanted to get started with it, so you kind of understand that, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. When we envisioned Forio Performer, the idea was see it, try it, and then do it with others. And I think that served it well. I think it's a good learning model. So we have a type of exercise that we call skills building, which is really more of a watch someone else in action, and then you assess their performance. And then a single player, which you do on your own. You record yourself and you evaluate yourself, and you can have peers evaluate your performance as well. And then you have a multiplayer or a team play experience where you actually interact with other colleagues live in real time. And we'll look at all three of those today. So just to talk quickly about the benefits, and these are things you can look for when we go through the demo. But Forio, as you may know or may not know, but we build all sorts of simulations, and one of the constant challenges we have is finding the right balance between realism and control. Right, the more realistic or real lifelike it is, sometimes the less control, and then the more control, the more feedback you want to get, the less realistic it is. And I think this is a nice balance where the calls can be very realistic. They can be like taking any sort of call you might at work, whether you're in support or sales or management. It really feels like a normal thing that you would do at work. And at the same time, we can get a lot of information, and you can do a lot of calibration, if you will, of skills. And I think that's been well received. The other thing that I would call out is the self-assessment and the peer assessment. And this is an area that Forio, I think, has gone beyond maybe some of the other tools you'll see out there in the market, and we're going to continue to go in this direction, but is a neat feature of our platform, and we'll look at that today as well. I know that a lot of people have done role-playing, and I remember doing it for years, and often it would be you'd break out into little groups, and you'd have to go, and sit in the corner and role play with a buddy, and there was lots of paper, and it was kind of messy, and it was very difficult to get good sort of roll-up feedback on that event. And I think that's one of the great features of this platform is it makes it a lot easier for the facilitator, and it's easier to track where people are and how they're doing. And the people who are doing well, who are giving model responses, their responses really bubble to the top and can be used in the debrief, during the event, after the event. So some advantages there. I think, that sort of feeds then into this organizational benefits in the sense that you can do a much more standardization of terms of what sort of skills you want to look for, assess on, develop across the organization. Certainly you can roll this out in global fashion as a web-based platform that it is. And you can work in asynchronous some of the time. You can work, synchronous in pairs. So there's, I think, some good flexibility there for the organization. All right, I'm going to dive into some demos. Emma is going to help me here a little bit, but let's do that. So I talked about there being. Let me move this here. Away a little bit. I talked about there being 3 modes of play for role play, and we'll look at all 3. All right. I'm going to come back to this this facilitator screen in a minute, but let's dive in and look at what the student sees first. I'm going to open up the first exercise, which is a skills building exercise, and again, this is the, you see it and you start to think about, how are you going to play? What are you going to do when you actually are going to play and do the role play yourself? So let's jump into this. I have this. All right. So when you come into the skills building screen, it's pretty straightforward. There's again not not a complex exercise. The idea is that you're going to listen, and this is an audio exercise, and I guess I should back up a little minute and talk about that. This could be a presentation where you give someone a series of emails back and forth. That's a little bit different view of that. We could also present someone with a video, and they could respond to the video. In this case, we'll do an audio. So we'll listen to this audio here.
Thank you for calling Cabletown. This is Lee.
Hi, I called a few weeks ago about updating my subscription package, and I wanted to check on the status. I'm paying for it, and I was under the impression that...
Okay, can I have your name and account number, please?
Sure, it's 867-5309.
Thank you. And what can I help you with today?
Well, I called a few weeks ago to upgrade my Cabletown subscription. The woman I talked to said there'd be a little bit of a delay before I see the new channels, but it's been a few weeks and I still don't see them, so I wanted to check on the status.
Okay.
I'm going to skip ahead here a bit.
Our system says that your box is receiving the updated channel list. You don't see the channel help you with?
I guess not.
Thank you for calling Cabletown, the leader in home entertainment.
So I'm not sure if everybody picked up entirely on that, but the idea was that there's an exchange, between a customer service rep and a customer. And while the rep is saying all the right things, you could say that they had high integrity and that they were, knowledgeable. Maybe they lacked compassion and their communication, or certainly their positive language or their temperament could have been a little better, right? The idea that, well, thank you for calling Cabletown. So, again, you might have an example that's a model example. You might have examples again that sort of pick out particular areas or key performance indices that you want to focus on, and you can give them a number of skills building exercises to watch. But after I listen, I evaluate it and I submit it, and then I can see how I evaluated this compared to my peers, right? And then Merida is playing along with me here, so we both sort of gave it higher on the integrity and higher on the knowledge side. She gave it a little higher, and we scored the same at compassion and positive language. But we had some differences here on temperament, and maybe that's an area that you might dive into, as a facilitator and talk to people. Why did you score things a certain way, especially if someone's, particularly off the rest of the class. All right, so that's skills building. And now let's take a look at single player. I'll open up that exercise and see what we have here. All right. So we're sticking with audio. Keep in mind that this could be something where they type an email. This could be something where they record a video, but I think audio is a nice middle of the road way to do this. And this time it's going to be a very similar construct to what you just saw, what the student just saw in skills building, but they're going to now respond. So it's going to be more of a prompt, maybe more of a voice message that was left for them.
Hi, Sam. I wanted to follow up with you on the Peterson account. I just saw in our CRM system that Georgia is getting credit for that sale, and I'm kind of upset. I've known the lead prospect for this account for years, and he just moved out of my territory 2 months ago. I think I should really get credit for that sale because I'm the one that's been working on that specific sale for several months.
All right. And now I will actively record a response to that prompt. Hi, Devin. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Let's find a time we can get together with George, and I'm sure we can work this out for everybody. All right. And now I can play back that response.
Hi, Devin. Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
All right. And there's actually a chance to re-record that response if that's you know, something you want to allow students to do, that you don't have to allow them the chance to re-record or re-record a certain number of times. But for now, I will stick with the response that I've given. And again, we're going to evaluate against the same KPIs, so the same integrity, knowledge, compassion that we have here. And these could be, again, whatever is important in your organization, or whatever, again, you're trying to get out of the particular role play. In a negotiation, for example, there might be a bargaining statement KPI or something like that. But these are the same KPIs we just looked at for skills building. And now this is a little bit different, where I can listen to the prompt again.
Hi, Sam. I wanted to follow up with you on the Peterson.
Can listen to my response.
Hi, Devin. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Let's find.
And I just think I did a great job, so I'm just going to give myself wonderful marks. I did answered that beautifully. But I have another thing to do here, and that is listen to one of my peers. And it might be 1, 2, 3, 4 peers that you might, you know, again, you can decide. We'll take a look at the fact side afterwards here. But now I can see how they respond to this prompt.
Hey, Devin, I think you should let this one slide. Maybe concentrate on other leads for now.
All right. So a very different response. Maybe that's one that, again, you might say, well, that she's being honest about it, but you know, again, sort of lacks the compassion and the positive language that you might want to see. And I also have this other feature where I can award thumbs up. I can award a certain number of thumbs up based on you know, how I felt overall you know, my peer did on this exercise. And again, like I said, there might be multiple peers to review here. Let's submit this. So we can see that while I thought I did very well, my peer thought maybe I didn't do so well in integrity or knowledge in some of these areas, but maybe we were a little more synced up on some of these other ones. Again, this is more for demo purposes, but I think folks get the idea. So now when I go back over and I look at the facilitator side and what the facilitator would see, they can actually look at what the class did on this particular exercise, and they can play the original prompt if they, you know.
Hi, Sam. I want.
Right, and they can look at the different KPIs, and they can see if the class is you know, strong or weak in sort of, you know, particular area where they might want to do more exercises. And they can also look at sort of which, okay, I think Emma has finally submitted her results here, so we see some different scores now. And they can see, you know, here where we sort of talked about the model response is bubbling to the top. But people who got top scores in integrity would appear here, and we could usually list the top 3, configure that a little bit, but you know, maybe this is the best response for integrity.
Hey, Devin, I think you should.
Right. And maybe this one is the best response for communication. These are just demos, but.
Hi, Devin. Thanks for bringing.
But you can see how, you know, with entire class voting and with voting on multiple peers, how the model responses would bubble up to the top. All right, let's jump over to team play now. And we're going to do a very similar thing, but we're going to do it live with Emerita and I together. So now when I log in, if I can move this. All right. I'm presented with more of a context, a role, right, as you would in typical role playing. And I am Blake, and and maybe this is a little small. I'm going to blow this up a little bit for people. But I've got, I'm calling about my my subscription package and my channel lineup here, and there's a little bit of information about my demographic. Again, this is all configurable. You can decide what sort of prompt you want to give people before they do this role play. So let me make this call.
Hi, Blake. Thank you for calling Town. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I was calling about my subscription package. I saw some information about deluxe package. I don't think I have that. Do you know?
I can give you some information about that. The deluxe package costs $120 a month and has 295 channels. And you actually qualify for additional discounts. Would you like me to send you more information about that?
Yeah, that'd be great. When you send me more information, can you tell me what sports channels are included?
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and do that.
All right, super. Thanks so much for your help.
Absolutely.
All right, so we chatted for a while, and then we can end the call here. So let's end that call. And there were a few other questions here that asked me. This again is something you can decide when you set this up in your environment. But did the associate do some of the basic things you expect maybe all associates to do? Did they provide a friendly greeting? Did they resolve my issue? And did they end with a warm close? Maybe not. And then I submit this. And now I'm asked to assess how that associate did, right? Again, this is very similar. Now I'm doing a peer review, again, like we did in single player, of the call that we just had. I can listen to that call.
Hi, Blake. Thank you for calling Town.
All right, and then I can say, well, how did the rep do? And I'll just give it some scores here. So, and here you have the opportunity to ask some different questions. This example, we ask about more of a marketing-oriented question, this around net promoter, but it could be any question really in terms of the outcome that you want for the particular role play. So into these, we say we'll just put some text in here. Okay, and I'll submit that, and I get again a picture of how they self-assessed. Both sides will see this, and then sort of what people entered in terms of free text questions that you asked them. So the associate feels like they entered all the information. I say, not too bad, they did okay. And then we go on, and we can go on to the next exercise. And if we look over at the facilitator side, there's a section for reporting on each team play event, and we can look at the one that we just played. And again, we're doing very similar, where you can look and see how the class is doing as a whole. Maybe we're a little low on compassion, and the model responses will bubble up to the top. We only have one call in this case, so there's only one listed there. And if I go over to the students now, and you can see that there's just 2 of the 6 students that have been playing, you'll see I was user 1. I've done 3 exercises. These are what I scored. One was a skills building, one was a single, one was a team play. If I dive into my history, I see the actual scores that were given, and I can actually listen to the recordings that were made.
Hi, Blake. Thank you for calling.
A little bit of feedback there. That's all right. Yeah, so that was the demo we wanted to run through today. I wanted to go back to the slides for just a sec, and then we can do some Q&A here. So let's do that. Try to preempt some of the questions here, but yeah, what do you have to do in order to use this platform? Well, one, it's really designed for you to bring your own content. I think someday we might have packages where you can buy a set of sales role playing or whatnot. But right now it's designed. You bring the content. You decide on which exercise types and what sort of format, whether you want to do text or video or audio. Video is a little different. It is a little heavier. It's a little less anonymous, and that's something just to consider. And then, of course, you bring the assessment criteria and any sort of, awards or badges that you want to have students earn during the exercises. If you're all ready to go, we can get up pretty quickly. We can get up in about a month, and that's, again, if you have all the stuff above ready to go. We often spend a good bit of time, though, going back and forth on assessment criteria and badges and getting the exercises right. So it's often closer to 2 months, but, not a long time if you don't have a lot of customizations. The technical requirements are pretty similar to what you would expect for any sort of web conferencing. We highly recommend headsets, certainly headsets if you're doing it in a classroom setting. And then the technology to communicate between the two browsers is WebRTC. This is a standard that Google has been promoting, and so it's certainly part of the Chrome browser. Firefox is supporting it close to the same level. It's not available, though, on some of the older IE, and that's something to keep in mind, although I do think Microsoft Edge may be supporting it, but that's something that to know about the environments. So yeah, that's what I wanted to leave it today, and maybe we open it up for some questions now. Remember, what questions have we gathered from folks today?
Okay, the first question is, what are some of the common areas that this can be used in? Yeah,
we've seen the performer used for customer service, for sales. We've seen it used in negotiations type setting. We've even seen it used in sort of a social services setting where they're working with troubled people, and they're working on the right approach to interview someone maybe who's on the street or a victim of abuse or has a drug problem. So we've seen lots and lots of different different uses for it. What other questions have you got?
Can you talk a little about asynchronous versus synchronous play?
Yeah, like we talked about, it can be used in a asynchronous fashion, but if you recall, a lot of the exercises had a peer review component, and then when you want to get those peer reviews, you need to think about, okay, when are the users going to do the peer review, and so so that's just something like if you do it asynchronously, obviously the person who finishes their exercise first is going to be waiting for other exercises before they can do a peer review. But otherwise, it's certainly very capable of going over the globally over the web, and if you just tell people here's your time period, it usually works pretty well. Synchronous obviously is no problem. The main issue with synchronous to think about, we talked about, like if it's in a classroom, is to make sure people have headsets. That also works well if you want to simulate what it's like on a loud sales floor or a loud customer service center. Everyone's sort of talking in their headset at once, but that's kind of a fun for people who are used to that environment.
Can we add additional exercises later?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see here in the setup, and this may be we can just kind of maybe run through that, but you'll have a list of different exercises that are available to you. This doesn't have a lot of data in this particular demo environment, and you can name them different things. You see, sometimes we give away a little more information in the title, sometimes not, but you could add more content, and then you could add another exercise to this class, and then you could go in and you could configure it, and you can decide which students are here. Maybe these two are absent today, whatever. Anyway, you go through the exercise of configuring it, and it's not difficult to add content, certainly.
Can I change the number of peer reviews?
Yeah, and if we look at a single player game as a good example, you'll see here in the configuration, you can change how many peer reviews you want to have. Do you want to have, everybody do 2 or 3 or whatnot? And you can also configure the number of thumbs up in this example, but you have some controls there. You could also change what you want to display. Like if you want to have the title for the student be a little different than the title for the facilitator, that's also an option as well. Yeah, other questions folks might have? Does that sound good for today? Like we said, if people have other questions, certainly don't hesitate to reach out. Actually, why don't I go and share my contact info? You certainly can reach out to myself or Amrita via email. If Amrita has other questions we haven't answered, we'll get back to those in email. And we'd certainly love to talk about what your specific ideas for the use of the platform might be. And again, this role play is just one thing that Forio does, and so if there might be interest in other simulations that we have, we'd love to hear about that interest as well. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Have fun role playing. All right.